Welcome back to the Green Line Gazette podcast, episode 11. I'm here today joined by good friend Nakul, Ramesh. We're going to be breaking down the NFL draft that just happened this weekend. We're going to be going through our top 15 picks in the draft, and then Nakul brought us a couple sleepers, perhaps. Patriots picks, of course, and then Boston College Eagles getting 4 players in the draft at 2 and 10. It's a miracle. I have no idea how that happened and how we had the season we did. But remember, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcast, YouTube and Substack, as well as Green Line Gazette on Instagram. Appreciate if you give us a follow and a listen there. But without further ado, Nakul, how we doing?
Doing good, Luke. How are you?
Better than ever. Just doing awesome. I love the I've been quoted in the past saying, so I love talking about the NFL draft. I hate watching the NFL draft. That's my take. Nothing bores me more than watching the NFL draft. I'd rather just, do this, get all the info in front of me and then talk about it. But, I digress. Here we are post NFL draft. We're going to be starting.
It is fantastic watching the Raiders take 7 of the 8 minutes to make their pick when we've known who it is since IU won the Natty. It's always a fun time.
I mean, and so there you go. Why do I hate the draft? Because of that. Because we've known who the number one pick is, yet we sit there for 7 minutes while these analysts who have no idea what they're talking about get to talk for the full 7 minutes. And it moves painfully slow. And, I guess we can debate this in a second, but I feel like really inside the top 5, it's kind of locked and loaded. It's been locked and loaded, right? So, but before we get into it, like I said, we're going to need you to stand up here really quick. Show the people the sweatshirt again.
Yep.
Okay, that's what I thought. So
we
have a diehard OSU fan here. 4 picks in the top in the draft. Right? That's college football. Every year, it's just going to get hard. Talent's going. Talent goes everywhere now.
Yeah, especially with NIL and the transfer portal. It's just so the good players are going to all the same teams. And it's being so top heavy, so lopsided. And then guys are also staying longer in college. I'm sure a lot of the guys who stayed this year, like Dante Moore, maybe even Arch Manning, they might have gone to the draft. But now with NIL, they're coming back for another year. So we're seeing old players and we're seeing, I guess, better players in college too.
I mean, yeah, right. What was the Indiana team? I know you're passionate about that team, and Miami too. They were both literally 25, almost not all of them, obviously, but a large portion of those guys were not college students. Carson Beck hadn't taken classes in 2 years, which is absolutely absurd. So.
It is crazy. As a college athlete, again, like you said, not taking classes in 2 years. The whole team is basically grad students or guys getting maybe their second master's degree. So it is crazy to think about.
Yeah, absolutely nuts. The state of nonsense we are in now. But you know what? Let's get right into our top 15 picks of the NFL draft. We're just gonna, break down every prospect, give them a grade. I have some player comps we can debate over, but I mean, obviously, round 1, pick 1, Fernando Mendoza, Indiana quarterback, Heisman Trophy winner, national championship to the Raiders.
It's definitely a pick that we've known is going to be happening for a while. Like I said, as soon as he dove into the end zone against Miami, IU lifted the trophy. It was pretty much locked and loaded. He was going to Vegas. I think he's definitely a great player. We saw that the whole season, made a lot of clutch throws, great arm, just a tough guy. Also seems to be a great locker room guy, the kind of guy that you want on your team. We've all seen the interviews, how happy he is, how locked in he is. It's definitely a good pick for him as a team that needs a quarterback and really needs a lot of different things. I know that he did struggle with pressure at times. The games that he didn't play great, against my Buckeyes. When they're able to get after him, he struggled. So with a pretty putrid offensive line in Vegas, it'll be interesting to see. But still do think you can't really mess up that pick. He's one of the guys you'd really want being your franchise quarterback. So I'm definitely a fan of it.
Yeah, great player, of course. 41 touchdowns, 6 interceptions on the year. Pretty nuts doing that in the Big Ten. I think he has. So he's got the pro level arm talent, right? I think we saw him, but like you said, struggles under pressure. There was lots of criticism of whether he's, quote unquote, a system quarterback under Signetti's offense, which is, absolutely insane. And I'm a little skeptical. I don't know if he has what I mean, I think he can develop into a good player. I'll say that. But I think Raiders fans are really expecting for him to be their guy year one. But I mean, Vegas just has a horrible history of developing quarterbacks and just, literally players in general.
Mhm.
Not a great he doesn't have too much help over there. Not a great situation. I mean, he has Bowers, right?
Mhm.
Which will definitely help him, but he's got a good quarterback coach in Mike Sullivan, who's, been at it. I think he's got a 20, maybe 30-year career in the coaching circuit. So he definitely knows what he's doing. But I'm a little iffy on Andrew Janako, the offensive coordinator. I don't think the Raiders have what they need to have right now to support him. So it's hard to call it a mistake because it's like, I mean, you saw how good he was, but I don't know how this is going to work in Vegas, to be totally honest.
It's definitely fair. I think, especially for rookie quarterbacks, the situation's what makes or breaks it. And like you were saying with Vegas, history isn't really on their side. I think the last guy that they took high as a quarterback was Jamarcus Russell, one of, if not the biggest bust of all time. So it'll definitely be interesting to see. Kind of an unproven coaching staff as well. Not the greatest weapons outside of Bowers, but I think with some of their offseason additions, beefing up the offensive line, hopefully they can get the running game with Genty going. And then also, I think the signing of Kirk Cousins is definitely really helpful. You get a veteran guy who's basically seems like a carbon copy of Mendoza, both play style and personality wise. So you throw Kirk to the Wolves for maybe half the season until Mendoza's ready, and then also having Tom Brady in that building, even if it's as an owner, I'm sure he's still itching to get back in the field. I'm sure he's gonna play a pretty big part in coaching up Mendoza, and I can think of a lot of. Or I can't really think of a lot of better guys that you want coaching your number one pick than Tom Brady.
I mean, yeah, the Jamarcus Russell story, everybody knows it. They sent him the fake game film, and then he, obviously lies about watching it, and that ends the way it does. So definitely a sour taste in Raiders fans' mouths from the last time they took a QB this high, no doubt. I have him as his player comp for a couple of reasons as a Justin Herbert type of player. I think they have, that raw arm talent. They both struggle under pressure. And I both think I really picked Herbert here because I think it's going to be a very similar situation to the Chargers where they're not going to properly build around him and his talent will only take them so far. Maybe they can sniff playoffs a couple years from now, like the Chargers did with that rebuild, but I don't think they'll ever get farther when the first round if they, have Brock Bowers isn't gonna take you all the way, right? That's no
Yeah.
secret. So I said Herbert just because I feel like they're gonna have similar situations where, I think they're both very solid players, but I just don't think the organization around them is competent enough to help them.
Definitely agree with that comp. I think, like you said about the arm and everything, and also Herbert's also a really gritty guy, and he's sneaky mobile too. I think you can say the same for Mendoza. I mean, we've always heard about how Herbert's playing through like 10 different injuries while he's trying to carry the Chargers to the playoffs. I can definitely see Mendoza being in that spot. Definitely like the comp there, and I really think it'll be interesting to see how Vegas does support him. I know next year's receiver class is stacked with like Jeremiah Smith, Cam Coleman, even Ryan Williams, even though he had a down year. So it'll definitely be interesting to see in the next few years how Vegas is going to build around Mendoza.
Yeah. So I mean, I have him an A- pick right now, just because I'm a little skeptical of the staff and the culture and just, what they're going to put around him. But, I think he's a solid player. We'll see how much he can do without a really good system around him, because I think he benefited from Signetti's roster and just from the great offense that he ran. So we'll see how he fares on his own. Pick 2, the New York Jets. I feel like they're always picking, top 5 every single year. David Bailey, edge rusher from Texas Tech. This dude's a freak athlete, 4.5 40-yard dash. nasty dual threat, 14 and a half sacks at Texas Tech this past season. However, his floor, I think, is significantly lower, and we'll get to this later to Arvell Reese. I don't know what the Jets were doing here. Like, I was almost certain, and I said this in the intro. I was like, the top 5 picks are always locked in. I would think Arvell Reese is the go-to here, and that's not a knock on David Bailey. He's still a great player, but Arvell Reese is Arvell Reese, and not
Yeah.
picking him here, I don't think the Jets have the roster right now to where just a pure edge threat is going to win them games. Sure, he'll be good, but unless you plan to continue this deep rebuild, he is not your guy that's going to turn it around. And that's not his fault. But I just think Arvell Reese has a higher floor, higher ceiling. David Bailey's still a great player, but not just I'm a little interested in this thought process here.
Yeah, it's also the idea if you're picking number 2 overall, you want to get the best guy available. You don't really want to bunt, play it safe. And Arvell Reese has the ceiling to be one of, if not the best edge rushers in the league. I mean, we'll talk about it later, but he's just an athletic freak. It's his second year playing edge. So I think he would have been the pick for me here too. And again, it's not a knock on Bailey. He's definitely an awesome player. He's one of, if not the best players on one of the best defenses in the country last year at Texas Tech. But it's definitely, I do really think that it's an interesting pick. Not the one that I would have made. I think Bailey is, great player. But it's definitely also interesting to see how it'll be on the Jets, who, after trading away Quinnen Williams, Jermaine Johnson, got flipped in the offseason too. So it'll be interesting to see how they build around him and they really use him as a cornerstone of that defense, which, as we all know, wasn't that great last year, to put it nicely.
I mean, yeah, statistically, I think probably the worst defense in the NFL. 0 interceptions. Their pass rush was abysmal. So again, right, he's going to help your pass rush. I get it. I still think you go Arvell Reese. I had him as my player comp is like he's like a stunted version of like a JJ Watt, like athletic freak, but he lacks some of the technical things that I think are a little more important in the NFL. I think in college, especially the Big 12, you can really just get away with being just an absolute freak athlete like he is. And you can kind of lack those technical pass rushing moves because if you're fast enough like he is, you're just getting around every tackle in the Big 12, right? But I think when he comes to the NFL, it's going to be a learning curve. Not to say that he can't learn. I think he is very capable of doing so, but just like I said, his floor is a lot lower because of this. For that reason, I give the Jets and Reese. Again, my grades here are not strictly on the player. It's how the player's meshing with the team that picked them. I went C just because I'm going to beat the dead horse here, but like Arvell Reese. Like, what are we doing? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I think I would have, maybe in the same range. I think I'm closer to C+ or B- range, just because I do think he's that good of a player. Like again, he's so athletic, like his pro day numbers and everything, and just even looking at him, if you watch the Texas Tech game, you just see how crazy his first step is, how fast he gets off the line, how he can get around tackles. It's definitely a great player. It'll be interesting to see how it translates to the NFL. But yeah, I am also on they definitely should have picked Arvell, or at least maybe traded down a little bit and gotten Bailey there if possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Pick 3, the Cardinals, also just for me, a mind-boggling selection here. Went with Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame. Love, obviously, great raw talent, absolute beast. We got lucky enough to watch him play in person at BC, where, you know what, we kind of shut him down besides that one run, which, by the way, there was a holding and a block in the back that went uncalled on that, like, 90-yard run that he had. He's got okay vision. He misses a lot of gaps in lanes. But similar to Bailey, he had in the NCAA, he had the raw athletic ability to make up for these lapses in technical ability and judgment. Will that transfer into the NFL? No, but I think he's very capable of doing so. He is a good receiving back. it's very interesting to me. I alluded to this when I opened because I was mind boggled by this. They have James Conner and Tyler Algier.
Don't forget about
So,
Troy Benson too.
of course, and Troy Benson, right? So, using the third pick on who's probably going to be your RB3, maybe 2, I still see Connor going ahead here just because I don't think Love has that NFL readiness yet. I think he will. I think this will be great for
Mhm.
his development, but I mean, it's like everybody knows this. Running backs' careers are extremely short. Their primes are so short. So wasting it trying to develop him in this RB room when the Cardinals just need so many other things right now. I have not a clue why they go Jeremiah Love here.
I think it's a definitely a questionable pick. And I think I might be a little higher on Jeremiah than you. I just think he's an absolute stud. I mean, I think he broke out as either like a true freshman or a redshirt freshman, started playing, and every single year he's been one of the best backs in college football. Like he's so dynamic with the ball in his hands. Even if like we thought we had contained him in the BC game, and he rips off the 90-yarder, and I think he ends up going over like 150 yards against us. And it felt like that happened every single game. He's definitely a stud. He's again a good receiving back. He's great in pass protection. He's everything that you really want in a running back. But again, with the team fit, that's where I'm really questioning it. Like you were saying, Arizona has so many holes. They still don't know what they're doing with quarterback. Brissett's holding out. I guess they have Carson back on the team now, so I don't know what they're doing there. Their receiving weapons are fine, but offensive line's got a lot of questions. The defense also has a lot of questions. I think there's definitely other guys that you can take here to build your team up, and then in a later draft, really add that running back as the final piece of the puzzle. Because I really think by the time Arizona is ready to contend, if everything breaks the right way, that's when Jeremiah's contract's running out. That's when you're gonna have to pay him that second contract that a lot of running backs are that doesn't age well for a lot of running backs. So I do think he's a great player. But again, the team fit. I definitely think he could have been going somewhere else that would be better, or the Cardinals could have gone in another direction.
Yeah, I mean, player comp here for me was 2015 prime David Johnson
Yeah.
on the Cardinals. Freak athlete, did really well, kind of lacked the ability to read the line at times at the line of scrimmage, whatever. But I mean, you're right. Like Love, it was 1,372 rushing yards on 199 carries for 18 touchdowns, and then 27 receptions for 280 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like this, the stats obviously speak for themselves here. He will fare well. I just, like you said, I don't think it's his time. By the time it is his time, he's gonna want the money. Will the Cardinals shell it out? Like who knows? But he's absolute raw talent. You remember that USC game? It was like 230 rushing yards, a touchdown, and then like 40 receiving yards. He just walked, all over them. Great raw talent. I'm gonna give it a C here. Again, I don't like sticking a running back this deep in the depth chart when you're going to pick this high, especially when you have a lot of other glaring issues on your team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, I'm looking at around a B. I think he's just such a good player that I can't really give it anything lower. And I do think that he's very quickly going to seize the reins of that backfield. I'm not really worried about James Conner coming off a broken ankle or whatever it was. Algier's a great player, but I still think Love is the guy there. But again, just thinking about that team fit, thinking about how there were other directions they could have gone, I think that's like I'm definitely lower on this is a landing spot than maybe some other places, like maybe a Tennessee.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we'll go to Tennessee right now. Pick 4, Ohio State Buckeye, Carnell Tate.
My guy.
The guy. I really like Carnell Tate. Great against the zone coverage that a lot of college teams ran. He would just absolutely rip them apart. Super crispy route runner, like goes directly at DB's throats, which you gotta love. He's gonna get himself open. He's not gonna really wait for the quarterback or for the defense to slip up. He's gonna make his own stuff. And then what I love about him the most is he gets vertical. So many college receivers struggle with they will catch the ball, turn around, and start running sideways. He takes the guaranteed yards where they are. Excuse me. He's just so many yards after catch just because he gets his body upfield and runs forward like a normal person. Can't stress that enough. I know it sounds so simple, but so many like young NFL or older college players just can't seem to grasp the concept of getting your body upfield.
I think he definitely got overshadowed at Ohio State. I mean, we all know how good Jeremiah Smith is, but I think that really makes people sleep on Carnell Tate. Like the dude's an absolute stud, awesome deep threat. He's really almost everything you want in a receiver. The guy catches everything too. Like he didn't have a drop in 2025, so his hands are absolutely ridiculous. And again, he's the best offensive weapon that's still on the board. I think there's a debate between him and Jeremiah Love, but obviously in this spot, he's the only guy you can go with. And for a Titans team that really relied on 2 day 3 wide receivers last year, and Ulick, Aomanar, and Chimere Dike, you need to get Cam Ward as much help as possible to really see if he's the guy. And the best way to do that is to get him a guy who could really be a wide receiver one in the NFL like Carnell Tate is.
Yeah, I mean that wide receiver room, it's Calvin Ridley on his last year of the contract, Wan'Dale Robinson, and then DK. I think Tate really can slide in here, probably as a true wide receiver one, if not two. I think DK, I mean, story for another day. I think he's gonna have a great season this year. I've been on him. I know you have too. Like I've seen this guy, I've seen the talent. So I think him and Carnell Tate are exactly what Cam Ward needs. And this is the Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, just singing DK's praises. I think he broke the record for all-purpose yards in NFL history this last year because he was such just a dynamic punt returner too. Just a guy with the ball in his hands. He's definitely great. Yeah, the additions of Wan'Dale is definitely helpful. But again, you really needed that number one guy, and that's Carnell.
Yeah, I mean, Raiders, pay attention. This is exactly what you want to do. You want to give your young quarterback the freak athletes at wide receiver to succeed. And that's exactly what the Titans are going to do. He had that insane game against Minnesota for like 185 yards on 9 receptions, I think, for a touchdown. I was a little concerned that 3-game skid he had at the end of the year against the Michigan game and then Indiana and then into Miami. I have it right here. So, I mean, the Michigan game, he did well, 82 yards on 5 receptions, but between all 3 games, it was 2 touchdowns, 164 yards, 12 receptions. So definitely stunted from what he had been putting up against. Obviously, that's a tough stretch of games, no doubt. Two national championship teams right there. And then obviously, I mean, Michigan, it's the game. They're going to play you like it's the national championship anyway. So it was a little concerning to see his production drop. But at the same time, you know, the atmosphere of these games, they're going to game plan for you. They know who you are. So not the most worrying thing, but definitely should raise some eyebrows, in my opinion.
Yeah, he was also, or I think it's important to note, he was also a little banged up going into the end of the year. I think he might have missed a game or two, or at least he was limited in those. I think he had a calf issue or a hamstring issue, something with his lower body. They didn't really say too much about it, as like the injury reporting in college is definitely a lot less strict than in the NFL. But I really don't think those games are representative of who he is as a player. Like I think the guy's an absolute stud. So.
Yeah, I mean, I gave him an A grade here. Compare him to Cooper Kupp. I think they have the same style. I mean, Cooper Kupp, as in the Triple Crown season Cooper Kupp, not the Jake Paul,
not current Cooper Kupp
of late. I think he's going to be great here for Cam Ward. I really like this pick. Should be an instant impact, like week 1, if not week 2, week 3 type of player. Excited to see what he's going to do. But we'll get right into pick 5. Another Ohio State Buckeye. My favorite player in the draft. We have Arvell Reese going to the Giants. Giants absolutely knocked it out of the park in these last 2 drafts. I think they'll actually be, you know, if Neighbors can stay healthy, if Scadaboo can stay healthy, if Dart can continue playing well, I think the Giants are gonna finally be taken serious, which sounds weird to say, to be honest. But Arvell Reese, 4.46, 40-yard dash. This dude's an insane weak side off-ball linebacker. Covers so much field. Such an underrated part of his game, even when he's not getting in the backfield or making the solo tackles or whatever, he literally shuts down an entire half of the field. It's absolutely nuts.
He's unbelievable. I mean, like you were saying, he's got just all the measurables. He's got the athleticism to be an absolute monster. It's also really important to note that this was his first year playing as an edge rusher. He came in as like an inside linebacker, and that's what he mostly played at before he switched to edge and really started dominating. So he's got so much room to grow as a player, and especially getting to the NFL level to a team like the Giants who have a lot of premier edge rushers there. So definitely a lot of guys that he can learn from and really refine his game. He can definitely take that to the next level. And I do think that it was an interesting fit with the Giants. I mean, they have 4 like true edge guys now. So it will be interesting to see how he fits in with Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, and Kayvon Thibodeau. But I do think just him as a player, like he's one of the strongest guys that you'll see on a football field. And he's such a good run defender as well. I think that'll really make him be an impact starter on day one.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see how he plays. I think the Giants have one of the best exterior defensive lines in the league right now. I also think it shouldn't be a problem with I mean, Thibodeau might be on his way out, unfortunately. Not really the prospect people thought he was, but he sorry, what was I saying? Jeez. I think Arvell Reese can be moved around to kind of anywhere on the field. If you want to put him, in the interior linebacking core, I think he would do absolutely fine. I think the Giants are going to have a really strong defense. We're going to have to see how this offense plays. But he covers so much ground, right? That Penn State game, 12 total tackles, 5 solo tackles and a sack, and like 3 pass breakups. Absolute freak. A+. I compared him to like one of the best weak side linebackers of all time in Brian Cushing. I think the ceiling for Arvell Reese is all pro in the next couple of years, first team all pro. I really can see him, if things work out, if injuries stay calm, defensive rookie of the year, no doubt about that. But I mean, if you can't tell, which is weird. I'm excited to watch a Giants player because I'm normally not. But I mean, how can you not love that core of Neighbors, Scadaboo, Dart, Cushing, like great mix of the young and the old there. I think they're gonna be special.
Yeah, very likable squad there, likable core. Yeah, and I definitely think his positional versatility is really going to help him. Being able to line up kind of like off the ball and then being able to put his hand in the dirt and get after the quarterback. It really reminds me a little bit of just kind of the positional versatility that Michael Parsons had coming in, because he came in as an off-ball linebacker at Penn State, and then his last season was when he really started playing edge rusher, shined there, and then obviously Dallas took him, and he was just a monster from day one. So I'm not saying that Arvell is going to be Michael Parsons, but he's definitely got the potential, again, to be one of the best players in the NFL very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Just can't imagine what the Jets were thinking here. I think the Jets would have been really lucky, but hey, I mean, letting them walk to the team that shares your stadium is certainly a decision. Speaking of questionable decisions, we're going to go pick 6 here. Mansour Delane, LSU cornerback. So the Chiefs obviously trade up 3 spots from 9 with Cleveland to get to 6 here to pick Mansour Delane. I'm a little skeptical on that. I think Delane was going to be on the board regardless. I don't think they really needed to give up what they did to jump the 3 spots here. I mean, I guess, right, we'll never know. We can only speak in hypotheticals because what is done is done. But, regardless of whether they should have gotten up and reached or not, he's still great in press coverage. Like, this guy's a demon. 18 pass deflections in the past 2 seasons, which is absolutely insane. Definitely going to start for Kansas City on the exterior of that secondary unit. But not sure they really needed to trade up here.
I mean, it's definitely an interesting decision to make that move up, but realistically, they only gave up, I think it was a 3rd and a 5th to go up from 6 from 9. So it's, in the grand scheme of things, it isn't a lot. And again, this guy, Mansour Delane, he's unbelievable. The best cornerback prospect in the draft. I mean, I know there was the Jermon McCoy talk, but there's problems with his knee. But Delane had an unbelievable season. This last year, he allowed a passer rating of 31.3 when he was targeted. And for a little bit of reference, spiking the ball every play gives you a passer rating of 39.6. So I know that's a stat we like to bring up for how awful quarterback's been playing, but I think it just shows how good of a corner this guy is. And if you're the Chiefs, you lose Justin Watson in free agency, you trade away Trent McDuffie to the Rams. It's definitely probably the biggest position of need on their entire team, and especially when their contention window is now the guy like Patrick Mahomes, who should be coming back for week one. I definitely don't mind making that move, going up to get your guy, especially when the next best corner in the draft went, I think it was like 2027 or something to Miami. So there is a chance they would have still been on the board, but I mean, Washington and New Orleans both have holes at corners. They're both potential landing spots for Delane. So I really don't mind giving up just a third and a fifth to get a guy, especially if you think you think that he's going to be an all pro in the future.
Yeah. I mean, and then under Steve Spagnuolo, Kansas City has a great history of developing like these mid-round corner picks. Like I'm trying to think of like, the Trent McDuffies. That's probably who I would compare him to here. I think he's gonna fit really well. Definitely what the Chiefs were missing and what they're going to be missing. Seems to be very NFL ready, in my opinion. I'm gonna give him. I'm between a B plus and an A minus here. I'm gonna lean on the side of A minus just because I think he's that good. Like you said, this is the best defensive back. I don't think he's the best second guy in the secondary in the draft. We'll get to that in a second, but I think this is definitely the best defensive back right now.
Yeah, if you're thinking of an out and out cornerback guy who can just stick on an island and forget that half of the field for an entire game, he's definitely got the potential to be that. I think, yeah, A minus is probably a good grade. I think factoring the trade up into that grade a little bit, but yeah, Delane's a great player and he's a great fit in KC too.
Yeah. All right. Pick 7. Again, Ohio State Buckeye linebacker.
There's
Sonny
a theme
Styles.
here.
Yeah, Sonny Styles to the Commanders. I love this pick. This dude's a dog. 4.4640, 43 and a half inch vert, and an 11-foot 2-inch broad jump. Like this dude, I don't know. He could probably be in the Olympics for something here. They're like, he's absolutely insane. Washington really needed linebackers, so they've hit the nail on the head here with Sonny Styles. This dude is absolutely nuts. I think of that Illinois game you guys had this year when Illinois was still, really hot. 10 total tackles, 8 solo tackles. This dude sniffs out gaps in the run game like no other. And at the same time, he's insane in coverage because this guy used to be a safety. So he understands drop coverage. He understands how to play outside of the run. And then when you stack that on top of, like I said, he's such a good run defender. A plus for me here. Reminds me of Devin White from the Tampa Bay Super Bowl run in 2021. This dude's just going to be everywhere on the field.
Yeah, I think his background of being a safety, coming in at a high school, definitely helps him. Pass coverage is one of the things that a lot of younger linebackers struggle with. So it's definitely good that he has that experience and he's able to do that. Yeah, I know there's a couple guys that are combine warriors, but Styles, it really shows in the field. He's so athletic. He's everywhere. Like he's able to play sideline to sideline. He's really good at that. And I definitely for Washington, he's a great replacement for Bobby Wagner. I mean, obviously a great linebacker, but he's definitely getting up there in age and it's starting to show. He probably gets the green dot for them. He's calling their plays in the defense from day one. So I really love the pick. Washington, you need to get younger and faster on defense, and there's not a lot of guys in the draft who do that better than Sonny Styles.
Yeah. Going to be a day one starter, I think, without a doubt here for Washington. Hopefully they can have a rebound year after last year. I'm sure with Jaden Daniels coming back, they're going to do exactly that. Pick 8, Jordan Tyson, Arizona State wide receiver to the Saints. I'm a little skeptical here. He has had a very injury-prone pass. Obviously just tore his ACL recently, has had hamstring problems for a long time, had a broken collarbone during his college career. With that being said, he's led Arizona State and receiving yards the past 2 seasons in a row. This year, he only had 711. So take that as what you will. But when this guy is healthy, he's a demon. And I'm sure that's why they picked him.
Yeah, availability is the biggest question with them. As much of a Cardinal take guy as I am, there's definitely a very solid case for Tyson being a better football player than him. It's just the real question is, can he stay healthy? I feel like with the knee injury, he came back pretty well from that. Collarbone isn't really predictive of anything, but those hamstring injuries, the really soft tissue ones, is what worries me. And especially in New Orleans with another guy who's injury prone and Chris Olave with the concussion history, it is a little worrying. I'm a little skeptical of that. But if you get Jordan Tyson healthy, he's going to be an unbelievable receiver for you. And if Olave is healthy too, that's going to be one of the best receiver duos in the league. It's definitely clear that New Orleans is really going all in on Tyler Shuck. I think they drafted 3 receivers and a tight end in Oscar Delp in the draft this year. So they're really giving him all the help that he needs. And I feel like if you're going in on a rookie quarterback, even if it's a 26 or 27-year-old Tyler Shuck, however old he is, you can do a lot worse than Tyson. I think he's a great player, and I'm definitely a fan of the pick.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too. Putting him with Olave is concerning for me. If they both go down, which is a very real possibility. Olave literally goes down, it seems like every other week. Same thing here with Tyson. If they can stay healthy, Chuck's going to be, probably a top maybe 15, dare I say 10. I mean, we'll see how that shakes out. It's only year 2 for him. Very new system that he's got. But if both of Olave and Tyson can stay healthy, I think the Saints should be a team to watch out for here. I have him at an A- just because this injury history for me is a little concerning. He compares for me. He's a great deep threat, great, yards after catch guy like George Pickens is kind of what I'm thinking. And like we saw with Pickens, like he went from not such a great situation in Pittsburgh to, having a career year in Dallas. So I think you pair Shuck, Olave, and Tyson together, I think the Saints are going to be a force to be reckoned with, kind of, just like the Giants.
Yeah, definitely agree with all that there. He's a great player. If he can stay healthy, New Orleans might finally be able to break out of the mediocrity barrier and maybe separate themselves as the best team in the NFC South.
Yeah, absolutely. Pick 9 here. The Browns go with Spencer Fano, offensive tackle from Utah. I give this an A. He's should start at left tackle here. He's got a 4.9 140, so he can get downfield really fast. He's got a history of kind of playing, guard and tackle on both the right and left side, kind of anywhere but center. So he'll be able to move around. This is obviously from the KC pick as well. I don't think there's much to say here, right? If you're the Browns, it's like you could close your eyes and start throwing darts, and it would literally be an upgrade at almost every position, regardless of who you picked here. So I like how they're going O-line, though, trying to protect what I want to assume is maybe going to be Shadur Sanders. I mean, you really have no clue if it's going to be, Dylan Gabriel, if they're going to bring in some vet. It's never set in stone over there in Cleveland. But for now, I'm going to give them an A. Kind of reminds me of an Austin Jackson type of more mobile and versatile alignment. But I mean, if you're the Browns, anything helps.
Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I know too much about offensive line prospect evaluation. But I mean, Fano's definitely a good player. Coming from Utah, I know he played right tackle there, and Caleb Lomo, a guy we'll talk about later, played left tackle. But Fano's definitely got experience there. And then the Browns really making an investment in their offensive line. They traded for Titus Howard, and they signed 3 guys on the interior of the O line. So Fano's kind of that missing piece for a completely revamped O line, and he definitely was very good at Utah. And it's definitely investing the O-line is the best way to support a young quarterback, whether that, like you said, that be Shadur Sanders, that be Dylan Gabriel, or even Talon Green, the guy from Arkansas, who they picked up late in the draft this year. So definitely like the pick. Agree with your grade there. And yeah, I think you really can't go wrong with building out the O-line.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of O-line, pick 10, the Giants with pick 10 from Cincinnati get offensive tackle Francis, I might butcher this here, Mauigoa from Miami. Definitely going to help Dart here. The Giants line was, absolutely horrendous. However, I'm a little concerned with the Giants' strategy here. This is the third year they've taken a right tackle. Clearly hasn't been working. So I guess that raises the question of, do they know what they're doing? Who knows? I guess we'll see. I gave this guy an A, because he'll start for the Giants, and I think he's mobile and he's fast, can hold the pocket well, and I think that really fits with Dart's play style of how he'll get out of the pocket. And I think Sir Francis here is going to do a good job at protecting Jackson Dart.
Yeah, I think if you're the Giants and you're all in on Jackson Dart, the main thing you can do is get him protection. And yeah, Francis here is definitely one of the better picks that they could make, especially with a guy like Dart who's been hurt a lot with concussion issues and everything else. Getting him protection is important. And now, ideally, the Giants have both their tackle slots locked down with Andrew Thomas on the left and now Francis on the right. I don't mind the pick. I think it's a position of need. It's a good one, and I think there's a guy who we'll talk about very soon here who I think would have been a better fit in Caleb Downs for the Giants.
Yeah. I mean, and for the Giants too, right? I guess you could have taken Downs, but I still think they win day one of the draft. Really good stuff out of them. Again, weird to say because you don't really find yourself saying good job, Giants, but hope they do well. Our last Ohio State guy in the top 15 here, pick 11, Caleb Downs, safety, to the Cowboys, where they get the pick from Miami. I think Caleb Downs is the best defensive player behind Arvell Reese in this draft. Can play anywhere on the field, in my opinion. I think you can put him at almost like a version of an outside linebacker and have him be a pass rusher, or you put him in coverage and he's gonna, do what he does all year. So I think I'm very, very high on Caleb Downs as well.
Yeah, I think even though he's picked at 11, I think this is the steal of the draft. I mean, he's just an unbelievable player. I think he should have been the pick for the Jets at number 2. I know, like, positional value aside and everything, he's just that good of a player. Every time you'd watch Ohio State, he's in on every single tackle. It's really unbelievable how much range he has. He's awesome in coverage. He's a great run defender. Just always run the ball. And he's a guy that's really going to revitalize that Dallas defense. They definitely needed secondary help, especially in that like linebacker safety area. And as a guy who can play in the box and as a guy who can range deep, Downs is really that guy. He's definitely my favorite player in the draft, and I really think he's gonna really change that Dallas defense.
Yeah, I mean, he plays excellent man coverage, right? He's like sticks to you like glue. It's insane. He plays really well out of the nickel too, and if not in the nickel, he can play that back half of the zone like he did a lot for Ohio State. 6 interceptions, amazing awareness and IQ, knows how to read an offense. We clearly, I mean, just watch film, right? That's all I have to say. He's got great hands too. He's going to come down with the ball. I like what you said here about the steal of the draft. I am surprised he fell this low. Like you said, right, there's positional needs for every team. You can't always take the best raw prospect, but Cowboys should be absolutely thrilled, and fans alike, that you have Caleb Downs.
Definitely. And I don't know if you saw the clip of it of Malik Neighbors when the Giants were on the clock, basically begging for Caleb Downs, and he was upset that they didn't take him. And I honestly think that's how every single fan of the teams ahead of Dallas in this draft are going to feel, or even Miami for trading out of the pick. I mean, he's just that generational of a player. It really reminds me a bit of how Kyle Hamilton fell in the draft a couple years ago. He's such a great player coming out of Notre Dame, but just the idea around safeties aren't that valuable made him fall to Baltimore. So I definitely think Downs is going to be something similar, and he's going to be one of the best players on defense in the entire NFL in the next couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. Pick 12 here, another offensive tackle prospect, Caden Proctor from Alabama. Dolphins get this pick from Dallas. He's good. He gets beat a fair amount, but he can recover really well, which is interesting because he's very light on his feet, but again, not great that you're getting beat initially. So we'll see how that fares in the NFL. He's really good in the run game, struggles in the pass. Definitely a part of this deeper Dolphins rebuild that's probably going to take a couple of years. Could start anywhere on that line, but I don't think there's much to say here.
Yeah, he's definitely type of guy who's super athletic. He's got a lot of potential, but it's just about him refining his technique. Again, it's kind of something where I'm a little surprised they didn't go in a different direction with wide receiver. I mean, with Malik, with the trade of Jalen Waddle, you're hanging Malik Willis out to dry, kind of coming in on that new contract. So it's definitely interesting there. I mean, there was times at Alabama where Proctor lined up outside. I don't know if you've seen the plays where they were throwing screen passes there. Their massive offensive tackle, but especially with a team that's really struggled with offensive line play under with Mike Daniels, the coach. Their line was one of the worst in the league. I can't really hate on the pick to really just get better in the trenches and really improve that.
Yeah, it reminds me of those like Trent Williams screenplays where he gets
Yeah.
downfield and just like murders 3 guys, and it's absolutely hilarious. I give it a B there. Kind of reminds me of Jordan Mailata. I mean, again, you already said it. Not going to pretend like I know how to evaluate offensive linemen to the fullest extent. You never really know, I guess, until they get out there, honestly. But here's an interesting one. Pick 13. The Rams go with Ty Simpson from Alabama. My opinion, this is a horrible pick, probably one of the worst picks in the draft. We all saw the clip of Sean McVay just absolutely livid at the GM. Clearly, there wasn't a conversation there because we know McVay heavily favors Stafford, as he should, right? I mean, former MVP,
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, proven winner, proven veteran, not really on his way out yet, right? So this absolutely blew my mind. You already did this with Stetson Bennett. Was that a year ago or 2 years ago? I I don't get it. Like, what are you going to develop him? He's horrible. I think he's a horrible quarterback. And if you want to develop a quarterback, you better hope that quarterback has raw talent, which Ty Simpson does not. So you're going to sit him probably behind Bennett, to be honest. He's going to learn nothing. You've just let the 13th pick out on fire. You've soured relations between your head coach and your GM because for whatever reason they just didn't talk to each other. I mean, I don't know. I can't for the life of me figure out why Ty Simpson would be the pick here.
I really can't wrap my head around the pick either. I remember around this time last year, everyone was saying how smart the Rams are, how Les needs a genius for somehow getting an extra first round pick out of Atlanta. And now flashback to this week, and you almost wasted on Ty Simpson. I think Simpson's kind of a guy who's good at a lot of things, but he's not really great at anything at all. Like, he's got an average arm, average accuracy. He's not that mobile. He makes the right read sometimes, but also a lot of mistakes there. So he's the kind of guy where maybe you take a flyer on him on day 2, maybe even like very early on day 3. To spend the 13th overall pick on him is a choice, and especially with a team like the Rams who were maybe a couple plays away from making the Super Bowl last year, and who are probably the favorites to come out of the NFC this year. It really makes more sense to me to go get a guy who can help you get over that hump at 13 instead of maybe planning for the future after your MVP quarterback. It just really doesn't make sense to me, especially if there's a disconnect between your head coach and your general manager. Again, I just can't wrap my head around it. I really don't like the pick. There were definitely a lot of other options that they could have gone with, maybe going to get like Mekhi Lemon, get Ruben Bain, maybe even trade up a couple spots for Caleb Downs, who is slipping. But yeah, I just don't get it.
Yeah. And then we all saw the other clip too, where Simpson calls McVay for the ceremonial phone call. And he's like kind of crying. He's like, "Coach, we're gonna make history." And McVay just goes, he says, "Yeah, no,
Yeah.
just enjoy the night." So interesting. How that's gonna play out. Not only do you sour relations between your coach and your GM, but obviously Ty Simpson has seen this. He's on social media just like everybody else is. Makes for an awkward atmosphere. F pick here for the grade, just absolute disaster class. Makes absolutely no sense. Anyway, pick 14, another offensive prospect, a guard from Penn State with an absolute blender of a name here. Ola Vavega loan to the Ravens. Again, he's good in the pass and the run. He finishes all blocks. He's just really bad at recovery after getting beat. But the good news is he doesn't really get beat a lot. But when he does, it is bad. It is oftentimes letting his quarterback there and Drew Allard just get absolutely crushed. Didn't happen all the time, but happened enough to where it kind of raised some alarms. However, I gave this pick an A plus because the Ravens had the worst guards in the NFL last year in Andrew Voorhees and Daniel Falele. Like, they were horrible. So replacing them with him and John Simpson is Lamar's probably going to be very happy because they were
Oh yeah.
basically PFF, like, 1 million out of 1 million.
Yeah, I think the upgrade from Fulele to, and I heard the broadcasters call him Vega, so that's what I'm just gonna roll with. The upgrade there is one of the biggest ones you could probably get. I mean, Fulele and Voorhees were horrible last year, and Ione is one of the best, if not the best, lineman in the class. Definitely the best interior lineman. Really like the pick. Supporting Lamar is one of the best things you can do for a team that is also trying to get over that hump, really make a deep run into the postseason, finally make that Super Bowl that's been eluding them for a while, especially with the loss of Linderbaum in the offseason at center, getting like a guy who can be a stud for you in the interior O-line. You can't go wrong with that. Can't hate on the pick. I'm a big fan of it too. I like that A plus grade.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of a Quinn Miners type of guy who also just had instant impact there. All right, so last pick, 15 out of 15. I love this guy. I love Ruben Bain Jr., the edge rusher out of Miami. I think he reminds me a lot of Terrell Suggs. Went to the Bucks here. I think this is a great pick. People were freaking out about the short arms nonsense. I think that's kind of just a new buzzword people like to freak out about after the Will Campbell fiasco last year. I mean, just watch film. The games speak for like themselves. He's absolutely disgusting. Freak athlete. First player since 1999 with sub 31-inch arms at defensive end. Again, I don't think that matters. He is that good. Great pickup for the Bucks here. I wonder how he fell. I thought he was going to be closer to around 10. Maybe this short arm stuff really is, as important as people like to make it out. But very, very happy for the Bucks.
Yeah, the league might have messed up letting Bain fall this far. Like you were saying, there's all these arm length concerns, but I really don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, if you just watch him play, he's one of the strongest guys out there in college football. He had unbelievable production, and he's bullying NFL level O linemen on a play-by-play basis. I mean, you're worried about how he performs in the regular season. He had a lot of great production. You're worried about clutch moments. He had 5 sacks in the playoffs. He's a guy that is going to be an instant impact starter for a Bucks team that definitely needs some juice off the edge. It's a great pick for him. Again, just standing pat and keeping one of the best players in the draft in your home state. You really can't hate on the pick. I think he's a great fit in Tampa, and I really think I'm a really big fan of the pick.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the league messed up too. Hey, time will tell. That was our top 15 picks. I think this was a really good draft class. Quarterbacks, not so much, but kind of everywhere else, really good. Ohio State, producing absolute studs on the defensive side of the ball there. But Nakul, you brought 4 guys in that weren't necessarily, first rounders or even day one guys, but you think they can make a real impact here. I'll let you lead with all of them if you want to get right into that.
Definitely. So first guy that I want to talk about is Caden McDonald, another Ohio State guy. He's projected to go maybe late first. He ends up falling to the Texans in the second round. Out of all the guys here, I think he's the one who could make the most impact on day one. I mean, the guy's an unbelievable run defender. He's always there, just plugging up holes in the middle. And he's also got the athleticism to really develop as a pass rusher. And as a D tackle, one of the main ways that you do that is by playing next to some great edge guys and some other great defensive linemen. And I don't think he could have found a better fit than in Houston. As a player like him, playing next to Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, and the rest of that ridiculous D line with guys like Sheldon Rankin on the inside, I couldn't imagine a better fit for him. He's only 21. He was super productive in college, and I really think that he's going to mesh well with the pieces that Houston already has and become just another piece of that absolutely monstrous D line.
Yeah. He said it himself, quoted himself, said he was, he thinks he's the best player in the draft and he was snubbed. This guy is a first team All-American, Big Ten, interior lineman of the year, 65 tackles, 9 tackles for a loss, 3 sacks, Outland Trophy finalist, which is just the best interior defensive lineman in the country. This dude's absolutely insane. Texans traded pick 38 and 91 to get him. because they wanted him that bad, and rightfully so. This dude's 326 pounds, but he plays like he's got the agility of like a 220-pound guy. He is going, like you said, he's going to fit in so well. He wasn't necessarily on my radar, but I know you follow OSU, and when I, kind of did some research in this guy, I'm like, how did this guy fall to pick 36? It didn't make a lot of sense to me, but Texans also had a, phenomenal draft. They picked up a lot of guys, including one Lewis Bond, who we will talk about later. But yeah, Caden McDonald. I know you watched more of him, but if he's what you sound like, I give him an A here, especially for the Texans.
Yeah. I definitely love the pick for him. I really think he can be an instant impact guy day one and really develop into a really good football player. Yeah, so moving on, the next guy that I want to talk about is Chris Bell, wide receiver out of Louisville, going to the Dolphins in the third round with pick 94. He's a guy who coming into the year was a projected first round draft pick. Unfortunately, he tore his ACL in November. He was having a pretty productive season for Louisville up until then. And allegedly he's supposed to be back for the start of the season. You hear this a lot with guys coming back from ACL tears or big injuries, but he's already running full speed. He's hitting good numbers there. It looks like he's on track to return. And again, thinking about the situation, Miami has absolutely nobody in that receiver room. I think their number one guy right now is Malik Washington, who is a good player, but he's definitely not an alpha receiver. And Chris Bell, who's guy's super productive in college, has a lot of the athleticism you want, the intangibles that you want. He's got the chance to step up immediately and become the number one target for Malik Willis on day one.
Yeah, and he had that great game before the ACL tear, 12 receptions, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tore that ACL in November, so when training camp starts, it'll be 8 months from that injury. Like you said, it's a hard injury to come back to, but hey, if this guy's running full speed at 6'2", 220, reminds me of your more physical type of receivers, like your DK Metcalfs, your guys that won't stray from contact. And it'll be interesting to see how he comes back from this ACL. I hope it'll be fine. Because I think he'll be a great player. I watched some of his film after you sent me over this list, and I was thoroughly impressed. So if he can return to what he was at Louisville pre-ACL tear, I would give this guy anywhere from a B+ to an A-. I think he can be a really good receiver. How well will he do in Miami with their situation? Unclear. Is that his fault? Not necessarily, but you might just not see the same production that he had at Louisville.
Yeah, I think whenever you get the chance to get a guy who could very well be a number one receiver in the late third round, it's definitely worth taking a flyer on it, especially like we're saying, a team like Miami who really needs that receiver help. So yeah, if he comes back healthy, I definitely think he's going to be a steal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving on. Next guy that I want to talk about is Jonah Coleman, the running back from Washington. Denver snagged him in the fourth round with pick 108, I believe. I really like Jonah Coleman. I had him on my college fantasy football team, so I watched a good bit of Washington, just watching him play, and he's definitely a great player. He maybe not be the most explosive guy, but he's just a bowling ball out there. Like, he's routinely breaking tackles. He's also got a nose for the end zone. Over the past 2 years, he scored 27 touchdowns. So he's a guy that he's got a nose for the end zone. He can pass block. He can catch the ball a little bit. And I just think he's a great player. I'm going to Denver. The situation's a little muddy, moving into a backfield with RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins. However, Sean Payton says that he wants competition in that backfield. Payton's also a guy who's routinely had good running backs on his teams. So I definitely think Coleman can eventually make an impact. Maybe not this year, but in maybe the second half of the season or going into next year. I think Coleman's a guy who's a different mold of player than both RJ and J.K. Dobbins, and he'll definitely see the field in some capacity soon. And I definitely can see him carving out a bigger role as his career progresses.
Yeah. This dude's an absolute bowling ball. So 25 of those 27 touchdowns in the past 2 seasons were rushing touchdowns. It should also be noted, absolutely insane stat. In his 4-year career in college, he lost 1 fumble. So for a
Yeah.
guy who touches the ball this much to lose the ball one time, it's nuts. And this is he played at Washington, so this is power conference football. This isn't
Mhm.
this isn't the Mountain West or whatever where it might be a little easier to hang on to the ball. Like losing one fumble in 4 years in power football is absolutely insane. I looked up his film because I went to his stats after you sent it to me, and this Washington State game, I watched his film. Absolutely insane game. 12 carries for 59 yards on the ground, but then he had 6 receptions for 104 yards with 2 rushing touchdowns and a receiving touchdown. This insanely versatile, like you said, maybe not the most explosive, but this is going to be a great third down power back, I think, for the Broncos. And I think, I mean, depends what Peyton wants here, but I would see him slotting in quite well on the goal line, kind of like a Charbonnet and Walker situation. So, I mean, maybe a guy to look out for in fantasy as well, if you can find a real role in this lineup.
Yeah, he's definitely got the potential for it. I think he's, again, just a great player, a guy who's been super productive in college, has some of the skills that'll translate. I'm a big fan of him. And the final guy that I wanted to talk about was Skylar Bell, receiver out of UConn. He ended up going to the Bills at 125 in the 4th round. One of the most productive college seasons that we've ever seen. He finished 3rd in the Blitnikoff voting behind Mekhi Lemon, who obviously went 20 to the Eagles, and Jeremiah Smith, who is probably going top 5 next year if he continues to play like he has been. So he's a guy who a lot of college production. UConn had an awesome offense last year, and they really ran it through Skylar Bell. He's a good player out of the slot, and definitely can make an impact there. I know that some people might be a little questionable about the competition that he faced, being an independent and really playing some of those lower level schools at since he played for UConn. But I think it's important to note against the 3 ACC teams that he played against, he had over 10 catches against each of them. And
BC
I also
was
think
one of them, by the way.
BC was one of them. He did torch us, and I also think that the upgrade from going from Joe Fagnano to Josh Allen is definitely going to be a big one. He's a guy who might not make an impact immediately, as he'll be kind of behind Khalil Shakir in that slot role to start, but he's good enough to get more playing time, and he's probably one of the better guys in that room. And I think it's a little hard to not be good when you're catching passes from Josh Allen, like I said.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just funny side little tangent here. Joe Fagnano, the quarterback for UConn, who actually ended up on the Ravens, has had maybe one of the weirdest college careers. So he played college in 2019 at the University of Maine. And then he just finished his, let's see, his 7-year college football career has just come to an end, where he had an insane year at UConn. But absolutely hilarious that this guy's going from him to Allen. But anyway, tangent aside on Joe there, the 7-year demon. Yeah, Skylar Bell, absolute A+ here. I watched him in person, just torch BC. He made us look like fools at home in alumni. He had 9 games with over 85 receiving yards this year. Total stats were 101 receptions for 1,278 yards and 13 touchdowns. That UAB game, he had 8 receptions for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. So absolute raw talent. I think he'll fit in well in Buffalo, especially with Josh Allen's kind of run and gun play style. So yeah, I mean, absolute A+ out of Skylar Bell here.
Definitely love the pick, especially for a Bills team that needs some receiver help. Traded for DJ Moore in the offseason. That's a start, but I really think Bell can be a guy who can really contribute for them and really be an effective weapon for Josh.
Yeah, I mean, again, watched him in person, just absolute demon. Like this dude is, I mean, again, kind of sucks to see him go to a divisional rival there in the Bills, because I would love to have this guy on my team, to be honest. But like you said, maybe there's a learning curve or a skill gap where, he was an independent. He didn't really play a lot of power conference teams, so maybe his production is going to be curbed. I mean, it definitely will be, obviously. Like, you're not going to put up 1,300 yards probably in your first season, but I think he should be just fine, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely agree with that.
All right, so we are now getting into the Patriots draft picks section here. Interesting draft out of us. Obviously, Caleb Lomu, offensive tackle out of Utah, 28th overall. We moved up for it, giving up a 4th rounder. I think that's probably due to the notable drop off in tackles kind of after Lomu. I think if you don't trade up here, you get stuck with prospects who aren't really NFL ready or who you want on a team. So he'll probably be behind Will Campbell and Moses there. He can be moved to guard. I have heard people say he is versatile and has played both. Moses is also in season 13, so you never really know what that guy, as he gets older, maybe his body's not really keeping up anymore. So there could be real probability here for Lomu.
Yeah, I think with the pick, again, position of need. We also had Drake May got killed in the Super Bowl, so getting him another offensive tackle, another lineman is definitely helpful. Was a little upset at the pick on draft night. I thought maybe we should have gone with an edge guy, get a guy who can really contribute more day one. But thinking about it, he's a guy who's got positional versatility, like both tackle spots, and like you said, playing inside at guard. Ideally, he's your right tackle of the future. He learns for a year and takes over from Morgan Moses. But worst case scenario, if Will Campbell struggles, it's a guy who played most of his college career at left tackle, and you're also getting a swing at left tackle again. So worst case, Campbell bumps in, Lomu plays left tackle, and you figure out right tackle later. So having that versatility is nice. I think he's definitely going to be a good player and a guy who can really solve some of those issues and really kind of provide an insurance plan for Campbell. Um, and I am a fan of the pick. I also will say, within the first round with the Eagles taking Lemon and us not taking a receiver, I think that also really cements AJ Brown is coming to the Pats. So I'm happy that we didn't take a weapon there, since that signals that. And I really think Lomu can be an impact player for us, especially in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope that means AJ Brown's coming, because if not, it'll be a little concerning, to be quite honest. But pointing all in the right directions. Yeah, short arms, whatever. 33 and 3/8 inches. I don't think that's
Mhm.
super important. I mean, we'll see how it plays out, right, with Campbell. This guy's a great
Mhm.
run blocker, especially on zone runs. Kind of lacks a little with like power blocking and a little bit in pass pro, as he did at Utah. He is credited, I think, with getting Cam Rising like absolutely destroyed, which I kind of think led to the end of, I mean, Cam Rising's 7-year career. So I think that was really just injury prone, to be honest. But I think he should be good. I hope he gets some playing time this year. I think there are some gaps in the O line. And like I said, with Campbell, you never know when that guy can go down. But I'm gonna give this
Mhm.
anywhere from a B plus to an A minus for the
Yeah.
draft grade.
Yeah, I think B plus is probably where it's at. Definitely agree with all that. But I do really think he's a good player. I mean, the Big 12, there's definitely some good edge rushers there. When they played Texas Tech, he was going up against David Bailey for most of the game, and he played pretty well against him. He didn't allow a sack to Bailey. I think Bailey got a sack rushing somebody else. So I mean, he's a good player, guy that'll contribute, really be a swing tackle to start, and then hopefully take over at right tackle for the rest of his career and be a productive starter for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Patriots second round pick, 55th overall, Gabe Jacas, edge rusher from Illinois. Again, we traded up for him. We gave up 125 and 202. 202 is actually the pick that I believe it was either Logan Taylor or Lewis Bond, one of the BC guys. We gave that to the
Mm.
Texans. Anyway, it means they like Jackas. They see something there with him on the edge, especially what he did at Illinois. We really needed an edge rusher. I think he'll probably be behind Landry to start at least. But this guy has a wrestling background, so he's a freak athlete, and two, I was reading up on a report that he dropped anywhere from 15 to 20 pounds at the Senior Bowl to show that he could also play safety, because he's played safety
Mhm.
before. So, I mean, if he's willing to be like a Swiss Army knife here, that's going to be incredible for the Patriots. I don't think you could ever go wrong, right, with that, to be honest.
Mhm.
Kind of not the most explosive first step at times, but he can really lock in on the run, just kind of struggles and pass pro.
Yeah, I think especially for a team that needs juice off the edge. Giannis is a great guy to get. I mean, he had 11 sacks at Illinois this past year, so definitely a guy who can get after the quarterback, and something that we need. I know after Landry got hurt last year, he was a bit limited, and with Draymond Jones coming in, like he's okay for us. He's a guy, but we definitely still need some more juice. And excuse me, Giannis gives us this. Definitely makes me a lot more happy about the Lomu pick now that we were able to get a guy to position need who can hopefully contribute week one. I also like the fact that we're trading up for guys. We have guys that are high on our board that might be slipping, and we're willing to mortgage some of that capital. I really think that our window to win is now on Drake May's rookie contract. So I do like the fact we're being aggressive here. I like the player. I like the fit, position need. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah. And then again, moving up, kind of just like Lomu, kind of shows perhaps Patriots don't really like what they see on those day 3 boards. So, I mean, if they can give it up and get the guys they need now, I absolutely love that. I give this an A. I watched a little film on him too. Just like his highlight stuff from senior year and then his senior bowl tape, excuse me. And I was thoroughly impressed. And if he plays safety, like even better, right? Whatever. But we'll see how that goes. With the 95th pick, we took tight end from Notre Dame, Eli Raradon, excuse me. Vrabel was quoted saying he needed to focus more on mid-round tight ends. As he said, a bunch of other teams have had success around the league finding kind of these mid-round guys who have developed and played actual roles on teams. This guy's a great high point catcher, background of basketball, so super tall, number 3 tight end in the class, very athletic. I'm excited. I'm hesitant here. I give this a B+ because he tore his ACL in 2021 and then he came back and tore it again in 2022. So one that, I mean, it shows he can overcome adversity. Obviously made it to NFL, so that's great, but it's just a very concerning injury to have happen twice. But Vrabel said he's a willing blocker, willing to do it all. So we'll see how he shakes out. But I'm a little skeptical on the injury background.
Yeah, the injuries are a concern there, but he had a great last year in college. Didn't really have too many injury issues, so hopefully those are all behind him. And as a player, he's a guy that the Pats, or he's an archetype that the Pats seem to be prioritizing on being a willing blocker and a good one at that, and a receiver. I think that's the kind of mold that we want from our tight ends. I think the signing of Julian Hill really signals that. Raridan hopefully can be a guy who steps into that tight end 2 role immediately. Someone who backs up Hunter Henry and then is able to eventually take over for him when Henry either retires or moves on. I mean, he didn't have that much production in college. I think he only had like a little under 500 yards, but also the nation's leader in yards. I think it was Stowers had like 700 something, and Kenyon Sadiq, the first tight end off the board, only had like 550 or something like that. So that lack of production doesn't really worry me. I'm a fan of the pick. I definitely think he can develop. He can be a guy who's a contributor for us in the future and just another weapon for Drake May, which is what you need to do for him.
Yeah, absolutely. 171st pick overall, Karen Prunty, defensive back from Wake Forest. He wasn't invited to the combine, but he was always on the Pats' radar. They had him listed as a pre-draft visitor, 4.4540. I don't see much here. Probably a good special teamer, maybe like one of the McCourties, and just great to have corner depth. But I wouldn't expect, this to be the next Gonzo, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I don't know too much about Prunty. I haven't really watched Wake Forest play football that much. I really don't know much about him. Again, not being a combine invite, you don't really know much about his athletic profile. I think pro day stats are always juiced up a bit, so it's a little hard to trust those. Hopefully he develops into something. I think the main thing that this signals, though, is maybe the end of Carlton Davis's time on the Pats. I know next year he's got a pretty massive cap hit, so there's been a lot of buzz around Davis maybe not being on the team after this year. So hopefully Prunty can develop into a guy who can take over that role, or be a guy who's like a CB3, CB4 for us, and we're able to get somebody else to fill that Davis role. But again, I trust Mike Vrabel. I trust Elliott Wolf maybe a little bit less, but I think they know what they're doing. I don't mind the pick. I think you definitely need corner depth because we're really thin outside of Gonzo and Carlton on the outside. I know Marcus Jones, our slot guy, but I don't mind the pick at all.
No, yeah, love the depth here. Should be good, especially on special teams. Hopefully, he can grow into a good player here. But 196th overall, we took Demetrius Crown over tackle out of A&M. This dude is massive, 6'7", 319, 35 and 3/8 inch arms. Since that seems to be something we have to preface now. Lewis Riddick said he was very high on this guy. Thinks he's an absolute beast. You watch his film, he literally throws kids around on the line of scrimmage like rag dolls. Only concerning thing I really saw here was his penalty issues. He had 11 last year. So if you can develop him into being a little more disciplined, pre-snap and on the line, I think you got a good, hidden gem here.
Yeah, it's this the point in the draft where you're really taking flyers and taking a guy who it seems to be a project tackle who can hopefully develop into a good swing tackle for you, or maybe even a starter if something with Loam or Campbell doesn't work out. I definitely don't mind the pick. Again, he's massive. He moves guys. That's what you like to see from those late round tackles. Also, a good thing to note when Ruben Bain had 3 sacks against A&M, it wasn't on him. It was on the left tackle. So that's good that he's not getting embarrassed by NFL level edge rushers in college. Again, I don't really know too much about offensive linemen as prospects. Can't say I watched a lot of ground overs tape or anything, but again, I don't mind the pick. It never hurts to beef up that O line, take flyers there, take swings there. So yeah, I like the pick. I'm a fan of it.
Yeah, absolutely well said. At 212, we had Nnamdi Obiazor, linebacker out of TCU. He had some impressive stats. Looked him up. 88 total tackles on the season. He had a 4.53 40. Again, probably just another special teamer backing up, I would assume, Spillane and Ellis. He's a big guy, though, 6'3", 230. So, you never know with a guy like this what he can turn into. But as for year one outlook, I don't think there's much to say besides probably just going to be learning under Spillane and co. And then, doing his fair share on special teams.
Yeah, I think that's where his main focus is going to be for this first year, just being that special teams guy and maybe like a garbage time linebacker. It's a position that I'm surprised we didn't address earlier because we have nobody behind Spillane and Ellis. I think the next guy is KJ Wright, who also projects to be a special teamer. So it's a position that, again, I'm surprised we didn't address earlier. Hopefully, Nnamdi can be a guy who develops into something, develops into an eventual starter, maybe a mid-level guy. But it's I don't mind the pick again. If it's a guy you like, a guy you think interviewed well, a guy who has the athletics and the tape that you want, go get him. Take a swing at a position of need. But it's also something that signals to me we do need more help at this position. There's still a lot of good free agent linebackers out there. Maybe going after like a Matt Milano, guy like that. It's something that we could look into doing. I don't mind the pick, but again, it's a position that we need more help at.
Yeah, well said. We took Baron Morton here at quarterback. Nothing wrong with taking depth quarterbacks. He said he's happy to get May's coffee and do whatever he wants. I just hate this guy. The most I watched of him was that CFP game against Oregon. He threw for 137 yards, 2 interceptions. They scored 0 points. They barely moved the ball. He got sacked 4 times. 2 or 3 of those were kind of his fault. He should have gotten rid of the ball. I didn't see much I liked out of him all year, to be honest, especially in that Oregon game. Again, not that it matters. I mean, you're just kind of picking from the bottom of the QB barrel here, but wouldn't expect much from Morton. Probably gonna move on from him within the coming years, especially with Drake May and goodness, what's his name? Not Danny DeVito.
Oh, Tommy DeVito.
Tommy DeVito. Jeez, yeah. Danny DeVito. Sure. Yeah, with DeVito, right? Like, who cares? Baron Morton, you kind of stink. I'm sorry. I'm not. Nothing to say.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where just a flyer back quarterback. It seems to me it's really just competition for DeVito, so he doesn't really get complacent. He's a guy that probably won't make the roster. If he does, he's that like practice squad emergency QB, like the guy that they elevate only on game days. I mean, that CFP game was awful. Oregon had him in a blender the whole time. He's been decent for his college career. I know he's had a lot of injury issues with his throwing shoulder, which is definitely worrying. But hopefully he's not tossing the rock too much. Drake is healthy and playing well, so hopefully he's only holding the clipboard for the amount of games that he's active. But again, if this is the guy that you like as your second string, third string quarterback, sure, I don't mind taking a guy, but yeah, he doesn't really move the needle for me.
Yeah. Well said. All right. Jam Miller, running back out of Alabama, 245 overall. I love this guy. He started for Bama for the past 2 years. He's a great receiving back. He did really well in pass pro, which is kind of shocking. He's 5'10", maybe a little beefier guy, but I mean, just great depth, I think, here. Good for the competition. I wouldn't be surprised if, maybe he develops into something we can utilize, but I'm happy to get Jam Miller here. I watched a good amount of him the past 2 years, just watching Bama games and whatnot. So good pick by the Pats here. Great little round 7, sweep up off the board. So thoroughly impressed.
Yeah, you can never hate the late round running back flyer. I feel like that's the position that hits the most with those late round dart throws. In the Pats, you don't really have anyone outside of that 1-2 punch from Andre Stevenson and Travion Henderson. Hopefully, Jam can be the guy. We cut Gibson, Terrell Jennings, kind of just there. I mean, he's a good player, but I mean,
He's just there.
he's not. Yeah, I think that might be the best way to put it. But I like Jam Miller, good player. Hopefully, he can be somewhat productive for us as being that RB3, hopefully developing into like a good depth piece for us.
Absolutely. Well said. All right. We're going to combine the last Patriots pick here with the first pick of the BC section. So Quintavious Hutchins, edge rusher out of BC. Patriots took him at 247. Vrabel had him at BC's Pro Day. He went to the Gillette Pro Day. He played really well against Notre Dame this year. He was battling injuries at time. Stopped Jeremiah Love a handful of times in that game. 3 solo tackles, 6 total. Really gave Notre Dame some problems. That was a close game for those who remember. We were down by 1 possession really, well into the fourth quarter there. And I think Quintavious Hutchins is one person you can credit for that effort that we gave until it kind of, fell apart there. But love to see my BC guys go and stay local. Vrabel definitely saw something with them. At the pro day, he was working really close with them, doing drills and whatnot. So, I mean, we'll see what kind of guy he turns into, right? He is a 7th rounder, so this not like first round talent or anything, but I think Hutchinson has the potential here to be great. And I guess it's really just going to be a matter of what the roster needs and, if he's willing to develop and kind of evolve into the player the Patriots are looking for.
Yeah, I think from a Pat's perspective, more edge depth is always nice. Like you're saying, Vrabel was working pretty closely with him at the BC Pro Day. He's a guy that I did like at BC. He was a decent pass rusher, team captain for us. The production wasn't really there with only 2 sacks this year, but again, battling injuries, he showed up in some of our bigger games, even if some of the other parts of the team didn't. I mean, if the Pats are in on him, if they like what they saw at the BC Pro Day, I got as high hopes as you can for a 7th round flyer. I'm hoping he can make the team, stick around, be one of those rotational guys for us. But yeah, it is always cool seeing a BC guy stay local and stay with our team.
Yeah, absolutely. Pick 102 overall to the Bills. Jude Bowery, captain last year. He's been a really crucial piece for BC in the past 2 years as well. Don't think he'll start day 1 for the Bills, but I think this is a great pickup by Buffalo. I think he will start soon. I've really liked what I've seen out of him, especially like in my time here at BC and then watching that fall season last year, but done great things for us on the line. Big guy, about 6'5", 6'6", and 320. Again, the arm span 33 and about 3/4 there, but he's got kind of a 5 flat on his 40-meter or 40-yard dash, excuse me. So I think the Bills kind of got a hidden gem here in Bowery, and I think he's got a lot of upside.
Yeah, I mean, one of the better players on BC this year. Definitely a guy who can be a player for Buffalo, be a guy who contributes. I think it'll be interesting to see if they keep him at his natural position of tackle or bump him inside. I mean, he was a great tackle for us. Learning under a guy like Deion Dawkins could be really helpful. But with Buffalo, they also have a lot of questions on that interior line. They got some unproven guys slated to start at guard, like Alec Anderson, who barely played NFL snaps. is projected to be their starting left guard. So maybe Bowery can make that transition, bump to left guard, and end up being a starter. But I think it's a good fit there. Again, Buffalo's a team who seems to have a knack for developing good players. And again, BC, who really seems to be an offensive line factory, like been pumping out guys in the past few years. Most recently with Mahogany going to the Lions. I like the fit. I like Bowery as a player. Hopefully, he can be a guy.
Yeah, I'm right in that same vein. 202 overall to the Chargers. Another BC offensive lineman, Logan Taylor. This dude's got great IQ, really good pre-snap reads. And if you watch any of his film, he's a really smart guy. He lacks the physicality I think you would want out of an NFL-ready guard. So is he going to play this year? I don't think so. However, I really hope they can, develop him into a ready guy because I think this is kind of what Herbert needs. You need, these smart linemen who are going to protect you. This guy played kind of all over the line. He even took snaps at center for BC in some games in the past 2 years. So the Canadian Logan Taylor, probably not this year seeing field, but I really hope in the next coming years this guy can be Herbert's number one guy right with Alt.
And yeah, I definitely think that he's got a chance to do it. I think the Chargers is probably the best fit that he could go to. They're a team that's always had problems with their offensive line. I mean, their tackle spots are now figured out with Slater coming back and Joe Alt being the beast that he is. But I think with their interior offensive line, it's definitely a lot of questions there. Signing Mekhi Becton last year didn't work out, obviously, and now I think their starters are supposed to be Cole Strange at left guard and rookie Jake Slaughter at right guard. So definitely two areas where Taylor, if he has a good camp, a good preseason, can end up being maybe a day one guy or even later into the season, being a guy who is able to start and play. So I definitely think that it's pretty cool that there is a path for him to win a backup job or even a starting job with the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And then rounding out our BC guys here, somehow going 2-10 this year. We had 4 guys go. I don't know if that makes you look at O'Brien or I don't know who you look at there. I guess time will tell. Obviously, O'Brien is staying, bringing this portal class and recruiting class. But Lewis Bond, 2 picks later at 204, goes to the Texans. I'm super high on him out of all the BC guys. I think this guy's the best. Absolute gem. He's Boston College's all-time reception leader, past Zay Flowers. I believe during that Georgia Tech or Notre Dame game at home, which was amazing to see. Great movement. Super shifty in the slot. I think he's going to complement CJ Stroud, who kind of feeds on those checkdowns and those quick releases. Only 1 touchdown this year against Louisville, so not really a red zone threat, but he did eclipse 1,000 yards with 1,010, averaging 11.3. So when he gets the ball, especially when he gets his feet moving, this guy's going to be a threat. I really hope the Texans find a spot for him because I love Lewis Bond. I think he can be a really good NFL-ready slot guy. Even returning kicks, I think, is something he could excel at. So, I'm praying right now that the Texans see a real use for him because I think if they do, they're gonna be thanking themselves in the coming years.
Yeah, I don't know how you can be a BC fan and not love Lewis Bond. I mean, he's just been the model of consistency for us for the past like 2-3 years. Again, one of the greatest receivers in the school's history. Like you said, breaking Zay Flowers is his reception record. He's a guy who very productive for us. Obviously, a great football player, and again, a guy who I also hope is going to be able to fit in Houston. They already have Jalen Noel, who played the slot at Iowa State and was kind of a guy there this past year, and also with Tank Dell coming back. But I definitely think Bond's got the talent to make some noise, stick around, maybe in the first couple years as kind of that rotational wide receiver, maybe that backup slot guy. But he's a guy, again, he's got the talent, he's got the work ethic, a guy who everyone at BC is rooting for and hopefully can end up being and carving out a role in Houston.
Yeah, absolutely. I really hope he finds field here. Deep receiver room, right? Like you said, with Tank coming back there. But hey, time will tell. That wraps it up for episode 11. Great NFL draft recap with Nakul here. Glad we could run through it and give our 2 cents where they were needed. Again, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and Substack. Would really appreciate if you guys follow a listen. I like to say thank you. We're averaging a little over 100 viewers per episode now, which is a lot better than when we started. We started with around 10, 5 to 10 in the first couple of episodes. So over 100 per episode. I can't thank you guys enough. Make sure you follow on Instagram again at Greenline Gazette. I'll be posting all types of content there, a little more Instagram slides type of post for cool stats and stuff as I mix that in with my article writing. But Nakul, thank you so much for hopping on. This was one of the more fun episodes, I have to say. I always love talking draft. So appreciate you coming on, brother.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It was definitely a blast talking some ball, talking about the draft. One of the best few days of the NFL calendar. So I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I'm sure we'll have them back on for, when the Pats start playing, we're going to try and do weekly episodes as well as BC. So stay on the lookout for that this fall, 2026. That's all for episode 11. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you for episode 12.